In case you didn't know, the director of the Fallout TV series is a crazy man. He is obsessed, and we need to talk about this. We're going to be talking about Fallout Season 1. This is going to be a spoiler-free kind of discussion video because after watching episode 1, I just really needed to talk to people about this series. It blew my mind with episode 1, and episode 1 in and of itself is just a lot of a lot. And I think in a really good way. So, Jonathan Nolan is the main director for the show. He directs the first 3 episodes, and he is also an executive producer. And I did not know this until closer to this series release date. It blew my mind finding this out because when the show was first announced, I was a little bit nervous. I think it's really hard to take a massive RPG game and series like Fallout and distill it into a TV series or a movie or anything like that. I just think that's a lot that you're asking someone to do. Even in a TV series where, this TV series is about 8 hours long in terms of its total runtime. Still, they did it. And I was seeing the early trailers, and I thought it looked pretty good, but people were worried. They were like, these people aren't going to get it. It doesn't look good. And I mean, I was looking at that power armor, and I was like, I don't know, that looks pretty good to me. I don't know. But I was also apprehensive as well. I was a little nervous. For the most part, I was excited, but I was nervous. And then there were a bunch of articles that were going around right before the show released. And I found out that Jonathan freaking Nolan directed this show. I love Jonathan Nolan, okay? I love him. But before I tell you about why I was so amazed by that, let's talk about what some of these headlines were saying. So people were basically saying that, and this is misleading and kind of, it's not misquoting, but it's twisting quotes. It's that thing that I say that sometimes people will take a quote and twist it. And this is why you gotta be careful when people quote how much you're getting of the original quote and how it's being framed. People were saying that he doesn't care about pleasing the fans, which is kind of what he said, but it's taken out of context. In this article from T3, they had an interview with him, and they quoted him where he says, "I don't think you can really set out to please fans of anything," he said, "or please anyone other than yourself." And a lot of people were taking that and saying that he doesn't care about what the fans think, not understanding that Nolan himself is a big fan of Fallout. He actually, when he was writing, I believe in between for Batman, because he worked on Batman with his brother, Christopher Nolan. You may have heard of it, The Dark Knight Rises. You may know those films. That was Jonathan Nolan's screenplay. So in a sort of an interim period, I believe, he started playing Fallout 3. And he said he became so obsessed with Fallout 3, it almost ruined his life. It almost derailed his writing career. He's talked in interviews about this idea of how there was a period of time where he was playing so many video games that when people would ask him what his favorite movie or favorite TV series of the year was, he often wanted to answer with a video game because he just found that the types of stories you could tell in video games was just on another level than movies or television series. And he also has talked about his experience with gaming in the sense that he's like, my life has basically spanned all of gaming, which is weird to think about. It is weird to think about in that regard. He was even saying, a quarter of my life has been all of the film, industry in terms of, film and its prominence. And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, man, it's weird to think of your life in that regard. Thinking of even just how much of my life has been comic book history, how comic book history started in the 60s. So, you're like, man, a third, my life is a third of comics or something like that. It's wild to think in that span. But he was saying for games, he basically remembers playing Pong. That was the first thing he was interested in with Christopher. And so Joe and Chris playing Pong, and he's my life has been the entire gaming industry. I have watched it evolve. I have been a part of that. And it's so cool to see where we've come and how with Fallout, it just broke my brain with Fallout 3 because there was so much you could do. It was so rich. There are so many layers to this game, so many textures in a game, and just everything that he explored. He said he's put hours and hours into Fallout 3. And he's not the only one. I mean, a lot of the people that are on this team, from the interviews that I've read and watched, a lot of them, including the writers, are Fallout fans. They have played a lot of Fallout. They were big fans of Fallout. And so more when he was saying this in the interview, he didn't mean like, you know, like, who cares about the fans? He was just saying, I think you have to come into trying to make the show that you want to make and trusting that as fans of the game ourselves, we would find the pieces that were essential to us and try to do the best version. So in other words, he's saying you can't worry about pleasing everyone because it's just not possible. He's also said in interviews, a lot of it has to do with the fact that when you play a game, it is from your experience because you are playing through the game, and especially in a massive game like Fallout 3 or any of the Fallout games, really. I mean, Fallout 4 as well. There's this idea of there's so much for you to do, and you as the player, your gaming experience is going to be greatly different from, let's say, my gaming experience in Fallout and this other person's experience and this other person's experience. And the idea is that because we can all play as anyone and make any of these choices, we're not gonna align. We're not all going to be pleased by the same thing because what Fallout represents to each of us is going to be different. And so instead of focus on that, he just said, you know, as someone who, like, I'm a fan, there's a lot of other people on the crew even that were huge fans of the games. He just said, like, let's just all work together to make something that we feel good about. And especially when it came to his creative vision, he didn't want that to be compromised. He really wanted to just do his best to do the property justice and make something that he felt good about. And he said, you know, at the end of the day, if you can do that, if you can walk away feeling happy about that, then you've probably made something good as long as you're focusing on really giving it your all in terms of these experiences. But he does talk about how it almost derailed his entire career, Fallout 3, because he got so addicted to it. He said he doesn't really play games as much anymore because he has kids now and he doesn't really have as much time to game as he once did. But yeah, he said that it's really about just making sure that you've done your best to honor the property and what you've gotten from it and pay it forward and really just make yourself happy as a fan. He said it's kind of a fool's errand to try to figure out how to make other people happy. You've got to make yourself happy. And I've made myself very happy with the show. And I gotta say, as someone that's watched episode 1, I'm very happy with the show. In fact, at this point, at the time of this recording, I've watched the entirety of season 1. And I'm really happy with the show. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but the attention to detail is something I've really admired, and you can tell that it was made by a lot of people that really love the games, I think. It's not going to please everybody. I don't think it will. I'm not that naive, but I think in general it'll please most people, and even better, I think it's going to bring a lot of new people into sort of the Fallout fandom who maybe have never played the games before or who don't have time to game and are going to watch this series and just become super interested in the world of Fallout, which I also think is super cool because it means that the more people that are into it, the more stories we get. And I love when new people come into a fandom. It just means it's going to get more popular. We're going to get more media. We're going to get more merch. It's like all of the things I love as someone who is a fan of many different properties. Clearly. Look at everything around me. I got a lot of stuff. So yeah, while I acknowledge that this series might not be for everybody, and I've already heard there are some fans of Fallout that are not happy with this series, I think in general it is very well done. And the idea that people were saying, this guy just doesn't get it. He doesn't care about the fans. Basically twisting the words a bit there. He didn't mean that it was a fool's errand to please the fans in the sense that he doesn't care what they think. He just meant, you know, you can't please everybody, so it doesn't really make sense to try to cater to people. It's better to just try to stay true to yourself and your own kind of viewpoints and just do your best to respect the IP that you have. And it all kind of started even with him talking to Todd Howard and having a conversation with him And Todd Howard apparently had a lot of offers for Fallout for people to do stuff, but he hadn't really found the right person to do it. And Jonathan Nolan kind of had this conversation with him and was able to show him that he was the right person to do it. And he said he was also grateful because Nolan said that he usually he likes to write IP stuff with people that are kind of already dead, so that there aren't people to come in and like argue with all the time. But he said with Todd, it's kind of cool because Todd basically trusted him and the team to take on the story and inhabit the world. And he said that Todd Howard's kind of great because he is a little bit more secure, he feels, in the worlds that Howard has built. And so he's fine to like more invite people in to tell stories, kind of like what also happened with New Vegas, which is, I think, great because I think a lot of people say that New Vegas is like their favorite game. So yeah, I mean, yeah. We'll see what you all think, but I just wanted to let you know that this man is crazy. He literally loves Fallout so much, it almost ruined his life, and he wanted to make sure that he brought that amazing experience, that obsession, to all of us that are watching, and I think successfully did so. I think there's going to be a lot of people obsessed with Fallout moving forward. I know just watching the show has made me want to go back to the games and play a lot of them. Let me know what your favorite Fallout game is in the comments, and let me know if I'm going to go back and play some games, what you would maybe like to see me play. And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about people that are fans working on a project? Do you feel that with Fallout? Let's try to keep the comments, I guess, spoiler free for this video, but do you feel that with Fallout? Do you not feel that with Fallout based on what you've seen? Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, friends, stay nerdy.